Hello guys. The latest news comes from UFC star Jon Jones, who was arrested by the police just hours after the Hall of Flames event, which was held in Las Vegas on Friday, 24 September. This arrest is very surprising because previously he claimed to be in his best moment in the UFC. While Jones is dealing with the police, highlights from last week's UFC 266 match resulted in a fight between Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega for the featherweight title, Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy in the race for the women's flyweight title, and fan favorite Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. Meanwhile, the quiet Leon Edward, who has brilliant results from every fight, even feels frustrated because his career is running in place. Before we continue, please press the subscribe button and activate the bell. Let's always update news from us. 1. Jon Jones arrested. UFC high-profile star Jon Jones was arrested by police last Friday after the Hall of Fame event in Las Vegas on 2 counts. The first charge was that Jones was suspected of committing domestic violence to the point of injuring, and the second was for vandalizing a vehicle. In fact, this isn't the first time Jones has been in trouble with the police. Jones previously had to go to court in 2012 for misdemeanor charges caused by crashing his Bentley into an electric pole. 3 years later, Jones was also involved in a hit-and-run case that caused a pregnant woman to fracture her bone, resulting in the loss of her UFC title. In 2020, Jones was also arrested again by the police on suspicion of drunk driving and possession of illegal weapons. According to the officer's report, there was a gun under the steering wheel and used bullet casings, and an open bottle of alcohol was found in the car. Some time ago, there was also news of Jones' dispute with UFC President Dana White because Jones, who moved to heavyweight, felt that he was not getting the proper payment from the UFC. The anger was due to an insinuation from White after the Miocic vs Ngannou fight at UFC 260. White says if he had been Jones and had seen Ngannou fight at UFC 260, he wouldn't have moved on to heavyweight. Ngannou himself has managed to beat Miocic through a convincing knockout victory. Jones himself was furious and made scathing comments to White on his personal Twitter account. However, the dispute seems to have subsided after the presence of Richard Schaefer as Jones' personal advisor. Jones was satisfied with what Schaefer was able to bridge himself with Dana White, so he no longer needed to pour out his emotions on Twitter. 2. UFC 266. The International Battle Week that took place at the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada yesterday was arguably the gathering of the best monster fighters. The reason is, the match, titled UFC 266, will compete for 2 title fights, namely, the struggle for the featherweight title between Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega, and the women's flyweight title race between Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. Volkanovski versus Ortega had previously been delayed in March because Volkanovski was exposed to COVID-19, but now their fight is finally materialized. The result of their fight was a victory for Alexander Volkanovski with a points victory. Volkanovski managed to defend the UFC Featherweight Championship belt because he managed to launch a lot of attacks, thus making Ortega unable to do much. As a result of the attack, Ortega's face, especially in the left eye and lips, looks bruised. Even so, Ortega was still able to hold out until the last round, when the referee declared the fight over. The event also featured the audience's favorite fighter, Nick Diaz, who competed with Robbie Lawler. In his fight, Robbie started the round aggressively and immediately launched several combination strokes. Nick Diaz, who focuses on his cardio, did not stay silent by providing counter punches and kicks. Although fairly slow, still can make it difficult for Lawler in the first round. Lawler's second round still had the upper hand and dealt some good blows to Diaz's face. Until the third round, Lawler's punch managed to make Diaz kneel and did not give a fight until the referee decided to stop the fight. Lawler was declared the winner with a technical knockout result. Meanwhile, in the duel for the women's flyweight title, featuring Valentina Shevchenko against Lauren Murphy, Valentina Shevchenko managed to defend her championship belt in this duel. Although in the early rounds, Shevchenko was made difficult because many of his attacks were able to be suppressed by Murphy. But Shevchenko continued to launch a barrage of attacks, weakening Murphy and forcing him to hold on until the fourth round. In this round, Shevchenko managed to throw a right hook into Murphy's face, which made him stagger until then cornered on the edge of the octagon. Murphy, who was helpless, forced the referee Keith Peterson to stop the fight in the fourth round, with 1 minute remaining. This is the sixth time that Shevchenko has been able to defend her championship belt in women's flyweight, which was won by Joanna Jędrzejczyk in 2018. 3. Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards feels that his career at the UFC has been crushed. This is because of his quiet nature and cannot to seek attention, especially with Dana White as president of the UFC. Edward is currently ranked third in the UFC welterweight, undefeated in his last 10 fights, but many times Edward has been overtaken by others in the opportunity to face the welterweight king, Kamaru Usman. The MMA fight at the UFC is no longer just a competition for talent and skill in hitting opponents, but has shifted to an entertainment event that requires fighters to be able to attract as many audiences as possible. Not only greatness in the octagon, but the fighters are also required to attract attention through their attitude outside the octagon. No doubt, fighters like Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, or Jorge Masvidal can become very popular figures in the UFC. Unfortunately, such skills are not possessed by Edward, who is too focused on fighting, so his name is not very familiar to our ears. Even this year, Edward was overtaken by Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal, and Colby Covington in the title fight event. Edward is currently adamant that he will not accept any fight except a fight for the championship belt, even though he doesn't know when that fight will be. However, Edward's recent record was a bit tarnished, with Edward striking the eye of his rival, Belal Muhammad. Well, that's it guys, a little information from us. Watch other interesting info on the Queen MMA. Don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. See you in other videos. See ya.